I'll, I'll move to the summary part of the meeting. So, Jeff, could you come back and summarize and come back on any points that have been raised?
Okay. On Ann's question, the ISO disintegrated seemingly overnight, but it had a long history leading up to it. None of its central leaders have a good explanation for why. But let me give you some of the elements. One of the most important was that it had a sectarian history. It shunned United Front mass actions. In the entire decades of the ISO's existence, it never once organized a United Front mass mobilization on any issue. Where Socialist Action organized, initiated innumerable mobilizations. For 10 years, we mobilized tens of thousands, 100,000 people against the US wars in Central America. We joined in United Front coalitions to bring out hundreds of thousands of people on the climate. We founded a national organization that mobilized 25,000 each on each coast to defend and demand the freedom of Mumia Abu Jamal. Today, we play a leading role. And earlier yesterday, I was on a webinar that we initiated with the Assange Defense Committee that attracted 500 people around the world because we are building a united front across all tendencies, mobilization to defend Julian Assange's right to tell the truth, right to free speech, because the effort to extradite him and put him in jail for 175 years is a threat to the entire left. If they win with Julian or Edward Snowden or Chelsea Manning, they defeat the entire left. So we formed a united front. The same thing with the anti-war movement. The United States has troops, bases in 1,100 countries. So we initiated a broad coalition of hundreds of organizations called UNAC, United National Anti-War Coalition, which organizes anti-war conferences that are democratic, open to everyone, that calls demonstrations against US intervention everywhere. Even if we differ on the nature of a government, we're opposed to the US imperialist beast intervening. So in other words, a central reason for the ISO is its sectarianism. Plus, it's petty bourgeois politics. It was central to organizing the electoral campaign of Ralph Nader, who basically ran a safe state strategy. And that is vote for me, Ralph Nader, when it doesn't threaten the Democrats. And when it's too close in any particular state, vote for the Democratic Party as the lesser evil to keep the Republicans out. Third, the ISO disintegrated because it descended into identity politics. It literally had organized groupings of Black caucuses, Latino caucuses, sexual orientation caucuses, environmental caucuses, each of which stood on the proposition that the organization that they were a member of was fundamentally flawed on every one of these questions. So the idea was that all of the different identity groups would gang up on each other to throw the old leadership out. And they did that. And no sooner did they do that, than it turned out that the identity politics were also rife with sexism and charges of rape and other things. So they put a motion on the floor to dissolve by the group that won the majority literally weeks earlier. You can't build a party that is not oriented to the working class, but essentially seeks to divide the working class into ever-competing sections. President Biden gave the world a dose of identity politics. He took his Secretary of State as a Black general, and because he was Black, saying, I'm following affirmative action. and he hired Latinos and gays and so on. But what they all had in common was that their loyalty was to the ruling class, not the working class, not one of them. So the ISO didn't understand the fundamental nature of United Front type mass mobilization. Instead, they engaged in either electoralism or dominant or front group politics. Jeremy Corbyn is a good example. If we ever built a real Labor Party in the United States, it won't begin as an electoral apparatus to duplicate the British Labor Party. A serious Labor Party will come out of the struggles of workers at the point of production who find that they need a political expression for their struggle in the class. The idea that there is such a thing as a parliamentary Labor Party, separate and apart from rank and filers organizing party activities to defend the working class at the point of production and at every level where the bourgeoisie is attacking, is a fundamental contradiction and failure of the British Labor Party. You're going to build a serious Labor Party in the United States. It's going to be based on class struggle. It's going to be based on workers saying, we need to build a Labor Party that reflects the power that we've won in the streets and throw the bastards out so we can run the government in the interests of the working class. As far as the small party having a large potential, Maxime's question. The tragedy of the American left has been at the same time a great equalizer. There is no party that is dominant in any social movement. And the party that gets out there, especially a party that's able to get out there with its members vaccinated and the pandemic not representing an immediate threat, is going to have, in my opinion, a field day in winning revolutionary youth to the socialist banner and sinking deep roots in every struggle. We want to build in our party, Socialist Action, which has an unprecedented united front, mass action, independent, class-based strategy of organizing and defending the workers in every field. We expect to be able to grow because our members are imbued with this programmatic heritage. Basically, we have one thing that allows us to take the next leap when the conditions allow, and they will allow it, and that is our program. That's what unites us, our history and our program. Our party is a reflection of the history of the class struggle in the United States and our worldwide party that we seek to construct. And believe me, we're far from it. I spent the last 4 days in meetings of 100 representatives of the Fourth International, and they are sorely off base, looking for substitutes of building disciplined Leninist parties. So our future, in my opinion, is bright. The history of every revolutionary party is, if you have the right program and you're engaged in the struggle and you're active with the class defending their interests, when that special moment comes, your recruitment changes from one at a time and small group functioning, small forums like you're organizing today, to the capacity to recruit hundreds and thousands of working people who are inspired by your example and by your leadership. We want to build a mass revolutionary socialist party. John mentioned Michigan. What we saw in Michigan was a handful, perhaps, 20, 30 armed people with rifles in the state capitol, claiming they wanted to arrest the governor of the state, a liberal Democrat. But that was for show. You're allowed to carry a rifle in that state, and the police slowly backed them off. I'm not concerned that the right wing are going to gain a major foothold in the organized working class. I am concerned that there are going to be fundamental changes in the working class. The industrial working class is today 6% unionized, and the entire working class, including the public employee unions, is 9%, the lowest level in the modern era. I hate to say this, and don't get me wrong, but in a certain sense, this highly bureaucratized, bureaucratic, corrupt Democratic Party oriented Labor Party is more easy to replace and push aside today than when it controlled 35%, 36 or 37% of the entire trade union movement. They are discredited. The same UAW that was compelled to conduct the strike, the auto workers, literally had its central leadership indictment for open corruption, stealing money out of the pension funds. They were forced to do something to show their legitimacy. So they bled the workers on the picket lines for a relatively short time. And the workers responded until the bureaucrats called them back. But today we have open season. Yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, we had demonstrations in 50 cities in the United States in solidarity with the workers in Bessemer, Alabama, who were organized in a warehouse, 5,000 strong, with a major union vote coming up. So I was invited to speak to a local demonstration in Oakland, California, called on a few days' notice. And we had 200 to 300 people, multiracial, youthful crowd, wonderful young people who were organizing a demonstration in front of Whole Foods that is affiliated with the company that is going to be struck. So anyway, these food workers today are concentrated in major cities across the country, and they're directly associated with the transport unions, the airline unions, the manufacturing industries. You have 6 or 7 major industrial centers in the United States in the Midwest who are within hours of shipping anything on a daily basis anywhere. And now we're seeing the first efforts to unionize them, and they won't be the last. And they're in the non-union deep South. Big changes are ahead. This is no time for sectarianism on the left. It's a time for great optimism, for enthusiasm about the future, for the construction of revolutionary parties with deep bases among struggling workers, unprecedented opportunities, and serious dangers at the same time. And the dangers include the possibility that the bosses who have telegraphed us in advance will use these fascist-like groups to break strikes. But today we have an opposite phenomenon. In order to maintain, to have credibility in the working class, and I think you've seen this in the UK, these right-wing neo-fascist groups like the Proud Boys are organizing in microcosm food distribution to hungry workers. They too want to gain a foothold in the working class to say that they are the popular representatives of the oppressed, as opposed to the right-wing, racist, pro-capitalist Trump bigots that they really are. But it seems to me that as we build in the future, we're going to have to learn how to defend our own demonstrations from right-wing attack. We've had some experience with that, but that experience is going to be magnified in the years to come. So let me conclude. Thank you, comrades of socialist democracy, for inviting me. Your questions are the same questions that are being asked by revolutionary socialists around the world. We're optimistic for the future. We're thrilled that we have comradely relations with you. We're proud to be associated with you. We're proud that you're building the nucleus of a revolutionary party, and we look forward to deeper collaboration in the future. If you're in the United States, join us. If you're in Ireland, join socialist democracy.